Are you interested in getting off of dairy products and just need a little help in knowing how to go about doing that? Well, stay tuned today because we have some recipes that will be very helpful to you in doing that. Welcome. I'm Barbara Nolan, and I want to welcome our guest to you today, Bev Cook.
Hello, Barbara.
Bev, where are you visiting from?
We're here from North Carolina.
North Carolina. Well, I have sisters living there. I wonder if you live close by to them. You may know them. Well, what are we going to be cooking today?
Well, actually, not a whole lot of cooking involved, but a lot of preparation, and I've got some very good tried and tested dairy replacement recipes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Half of the battle, I think, is finding something good that's good for you, and that combination can be found.
But I think dairy products are rather difficult, aren't they?
For some people, it is.
Finding something that tastes good and is a good substitute. So I'm anxious to see what you're going to do today.
Well, we're going to start with the better butter recipe.
All right. To make better butter, you will need 1/2 cup of pine nuts, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/4 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of Udo's oil, if it's available to you, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, and 1/2 cup of coconut oil. All right, shall we get busy with our recipe?
Let's do. This is a great recipe, Barbara. It's called Better Butter, and it's so easy. It's just a matter of blending everything together. So I'll start with the 1/2 cup of pine nuts, and we're going to put all the ingredients in this little personal blender. You don't need a big blender for this because it's just a small amount. So that was 1/2 cup of pine nuts. That's really going to cream up easily. And then I'll add the 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil here, and then 1/4 cup of water right here so it won't be overly thick. And then it calls for 1 teaspoon of Udo's oil. That is, if available. Udo's oil is simply a flaxseed oil blend. It's really good with your omega-3, 6, and 9, but I didn't have it today, and it's just as good without it. It just ups the nutrition if you have it.
Okay, well that was a new one on me, actually.
Okay. Then we'll use a tablespoon of lemon juice and 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. And the coconut oil we're going to add last. I'd like to blend these up first. The coconut oil is a very important ingredient because that's what will solidify this butter when it's all said and done. So we'll just, that was the blade I just put on here. And so we'll put it in here. This is so lightweight that you can take the blender off and shake it. Make sure everything's thoroughly blended together. Do it one more time. Now I'll add the coconut oil.
Okay, now this coconut oil, do you pretty much have to get that at a health food store?
Well, they do have a better grade at health food stores. You like to find the natural, and it's also in an extra virgin form, just like your olive oil is. When a recipe calls for coconut butter, that's just solidified oil, so they're one and the same. But this one calls for oil, and it's a little bit solid, but it's going to blend up easily. There's a lot of different grades of coconut oil around, but if you can find the unrefined and extra virgin, it even tastes better. And you know, even besides cooking, you can use the exact same oil for a skin moisturizer. It smells so wonderful. So let's blend this up one more time. You just want to make sure it's really smooth because people don't care for gritty butter.
No.
You know, smooth is what we're going for. And you can make variations of this better butter as well. A lot of people like the honey butter. You could add honey to it. I have a friend that adds, it's going to just all go in there. She adds different Italian herbs to it to have a herbal butter. That's good. Those are the main variations that I make, the honey and then the herbs.
To try this. I haven't ever had a recipe quite like that before. It sounds like it would be very good.
And wherever, right now it's somewhat liquefied, but in just about 4 hours in the refrigerator it will get solid because of the coconut oil in there. And then once you put it on steamed broccoli or your baked potato or any place you'd use regular butter, you know, this will melt. And it has such a good taste. People at the Lifestyle Center love it, and many people like it better than even your commercial butters.
Well, then it has to be good.
So that's about as easy as you get.
Okay, well, what are we going to do next?
Well, why don't we do a whipped cream?
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Let's do that.
Let's do.
Okay.
The whipped cream ingredients are 1.5 cups of raw almonds, also a 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice, 1 date, preferably a medjool date, and also almond extract to taste.
Well, Bev, will you show us how to make your wonderful whipped cream?
I will. Let me mention a few things about the recipe first. The recipe calls for almonds, but actually almonds, walnuts, cashews, they all blend up into a whipped cream, one as well as another.
Well, that's good to know.
So if you only had almonds, you know, you could use those. But if you didn't have almonds and had one of the other nuts, they work just fine. And actually, the recipe says to soak your nuts first, at least 2 hours, and I did that. And it makes them more digestible, the protein's more available, and it releases the enzyme inhibitors.
Okay.
So it's a good idea to soak your nuts. So in this instance, I actually did choose the cashews, because you can use cashews, walnuts, or almonds.
So you soak the nuts and then you just pour the water off?
Yes, and I washed them, you know, sprayed them.
I see.
So sometimes some of these nuts are a little dirty when you get them, so it meets a twofold.
So it's a good idea anyway.
It is. So that was 1.5 cups of nuts.
So when they soak, do they kind of plump up or something?
A little bit. They do. You know, you can dry them in a dehydrator if you just want to eat them like a trail mix or something.
Interesting.
And then also the 1/2 cup of fresh squeezed orange juice. I'll put that right here in the blender too. Just took orange and squeezed it this morning. And then 1 date. Now this might not look like a date to you. A medjool date, you can buy something called date paste. So they've already taken the pit out of the medjool date and whipped it up, and it's real soft. So it blends up so easily. I'll put that in here.
Okay.
Now, if people are just using regular dates, make sure they take the pit out, and they need to soak it for a few hours first. And then it'll soften up and it'll blend easier.
Better. Okay.
So, and then it says just a few drops of almond extract. And that, excuse me, that really does add to the taste of the overall. You want to be careful. I just put 2 in there because this gets very potent.
Very strong.
Yeah. And then I'll put the lid on the Vitamix. I want to make sure you get that lid in there very tight. There you go. And then I'll just push all the nuts into the blender here until it gets creamy.
Okay.
Okay? It's not quite creamy yet, but you can check it every now and then, and you can even add a little more water in there if you want to.
Okay.
So I have a little water here, just not even an ounce. There you go. And we'll just cream it up one more time, and then it should be ready.
On high.
that.
Okay.
Now remember, with natural food recipes, the ones we're duplicating isn't going to look exactly like your whipped cream out of the store, but the taste is wonderful. Just like we use carob instead of chocolate, and there's other substitutes, and they're good actually, but you do have to give yourself a little chance to get used to a different type of taste. I've done this with walnuts before too, so they all work pretty good. And all these dairy substitute recipes, they're good for about 5 days in storage.
That's nice.
Yeah. Now
So
this
you don't have to worry about using them right away.
No.
A little bit of leeway.
This whipped cream, you might have to fluff it up in your blender if you're not going to use it for a few days to aerate it a little bit more. And you can put this on top of any dessert. It's just like a light whipped, almost a nut butter. That's all there is to it,
Smells
Barbara.
really good.
Very easy. Just a matter of getting used to working with natural foods.
Right. Wonderful. Well, what are we going to try next?
Well, why don't we do the creamy almond milk?
Okay. 2/3 cup raw almonds, 1/3 cup of unsweetened coconut, 1 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 cup of raw oats, 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of raw honey. Well, I guess it's time for us to make our almond milk, creamy almond milk.
Yes. It's surprising how many people are allergic to milk and dairy products these days.
Oh, I'm one of them.
Really?
Yes. I had so many allergies, and I went vegan, and they just kind of dropped
care of
away.
them all?
Yeah, took
I
care.
hear that story so much.
Yeah.
So this is a great recipe.
Okay.
Actually, you know, my husband and I don't just sit down and drink a glass of milk, but there's quite a few recipes that call for milk in them, even vegetarian recipes. So if you have a good milk substitute on hand, then you can make these recipes.
That's great.
So I'm going to put the 2/3 cup of almonds in here. There. I'll put the dry ingredients in first. The next is a 1/3 cup of unsweetened coconut. And that you almost have to get at a health food store.
I think so.
In the store, they're just coated with powdered sugar, and that can really immobilize the immune system. Here's a teaspoon of sea salt. We use the Celtic sea salt. It seems to have a higher mineral content.
Does it?
And then this is just 1 cup of raw oats. And I'm going to blend all those together just so they're powdered evenly. And then I'll start adding the liquid ingredients. This is the Vitamix. You have to snap those together to make sure that the lid won't come off. And I'm just going to like mill them together.
Okay.
Okay, it's just a quick way of mixing all your ingredients together. And then I'm going to add the wet ingredients, which is the tablespoon of pure vanilla right here. And that's always the one that costs a little more, the pure vanilla, not the artificial. It's got the vanilla bean and everything. And then the 2 tablespoons of raw honey. Right here. Now the recipe says to add just a little bit of water to blend all these ingredients together. So we're going to get that started, and then I'll add the rest of the water to make a half gallon, actually. Put that in there. And after it starts to blend well, I'll add water to make a half a gallon, which this Vitamix makes. Okay?
Wonderful. Okay.
Put this in. we go.
Looks like it's blended very well now.
That's one of the beauties of the Vitamix. Now, actually, you could drink the milk as is, but if people notice any kind of residue in there, like a little almond or a little coconut, they're not real thrilled about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to strain it. This is like a nylon bag,
Okay.
and I'm going to strain it.
You
Could you
want
maybe either pour that in here, and we'll strain it, and then I'll put it into another container.
All right.
Okay. You can use either a nylon bag or a muslin. That's good. You have to be careful with this. Not that it's going to break or anything, but it can be messy. Another nice feature of this recipe is you can add dates and carob and make like a chocolate milk.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I know kids like that. And if you happen to have a Vitamix, actually you can leave it on high for a few minutes and it'll get hot. And you'll have like a hot chocolate. Oops. So you just keep squeezing this till you get most all the milk out. If you wanted just to make an almond cream, you just put a little bit of water, maybe a cup of water or 2 cups of water, and just kind of eyeball it.
So then is there any use for what's left over in your net here?
Well, that's a good question. There is. We've made different types of like almond patties, and there's different recipes around that call for almond pulp.
Oh, well, good. So
one
then
of them is...
you don't have any waste then.
Yeah. One of them, you can freeze it until you're ready to use it.
I see.
There's a recipe around for biscuits, and you use the almond pulp and you dehydrate it in your dehydrator with other ingredients. And it's really very good for you. So I'm just going to transfer this bag over here so we don't make too big of a mess. And then I'll pour the milk into the pitcher here so our audience can... I've got a little extra water. We'll just put that in here for right now. I want them to see what the milk looks like.
Nice.
It's nice and white.
Very white. Very pretty.
And that's good for about 5 days.
Fantastic.
And while it's storing in the refrigerator, sometimes it separates. You get like a watery top and a creamy. So you just take a spoon or a spatula like this and just mix it up.
Stir it up a little.
And then it's ready. And it's always better chilled. Right now it's room temperature, but if you chill it, then most people say they like it better than some of the other commercial non-dairy milks.
Well, wonderful. Well, it's a recipe I'm certainly going to try at home and use. And I like it that it will stay good for 5 days. That's great. Well, what are we going to do next?
Well, why don't we do a cheese?
Oh, yeah, that's a real issue with a lot of people.
Yes, a slicing cheese even.
Fantastic. Okay.
Okay. 2½ cups of water, 3 tablespoons of agar powder, 1 cup of raw cashews, 1 jar of pimentos, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes, 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder.
Well, are we ready to make our slicing cheese?
We are.
Good.
This is a very versatile recipe because you can make either a slicing cheese, or you can make grated cheese, or you can make a cheese sauce. You just
Wonderful.
make a few
So
little
it's
changes.
versatile.
Right. It's quite a few different ingredients, but once you get into this, these are normal ingredients you have on hand in your cupboard.
I see. Okay.
So it says 2½ cups of water, but 1½ cups of water I'm going to boil on the stove.
Okay.
And I'll put the 3 tablespoons of agar powder in it. Agar is just comes from a seaweed, so it's truly a vegetarian product.
Is it a thickener? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, it will make the cheese hard. So I'll let that be thickening in here as we put the rest of the ingredients in the Vitamix.
So it's something that's a little more healthy than cornstarch or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
like a healthy cornstarch, and it thickens pretty quick, too. So we'll let that thicken a little bit while we put the rest of the
Okay.
ingredients in. So So there's another cup of water. We'll put that in here. And then just go right on down the line. 2.5 cups, I'm sorry, 1 cup of cashews or almonds. I have found that almonds are interchangeable with cashews. Both of them are good.
Very good.
And then a 4-ounce jar of pimentos right here. These are whole pimentos, so they look a little different. That's going to give your cheese the orange
nice
color.
color.
Yeah, and it does add to the taste as well. Now, if you wanted a white cheese, you just leave that out.
Okay.
No, like a ricotta cheese, you just leave that out. Then 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. These are flakes.
Flakes.
Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I've used them. They have a nice flavor to them.
Yeah, that actually is what's going to give it the cheesy taste. And it's nutritional yeast, not brewer's yeast.
Yes, there's a big difference there.
There is a big difference. And then in addition to that, we'll put the lemon juice in. That was 2 tablespoons. 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Now, you could always put a little slice of a fresh onion in there if you wanted to.
Okay.
And then 2 teaspoons of the sea salt. 1 teaspoon of paprika. And of course, if you were making the white cheese like a ricotta or mozzarella, whatever, you would leave that out. We'll put that in. And then also the 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to blend this together. Now, the only thing I didn't put in was the agar, and it's pretty thick now. And I put the agar in last because if I put it in first, it's going to almost be too thick in there.
I see.
And it labors the machine. So let's blend this together, and then we'll add the agar afterwards. Okay.
Well, it's looking good, and it's really simple, isn't it?
It really is. And this is one thing people say, if I only had a good recipe for cheese, I could do a vegan diet. So this is real thick now, so I'm just going to add that. I think I should probably put this off to the side a little bit and add this. And then I'll start the blender again. See how thick that is?
It really does thicken.
Okay. Blend it one more time. The finished product is really beautiful. It's just getting from here to there.
Okay.
Here we go.
Definitely thickened it up.
Yes, could you hear the machine?
Yeah, it's starting to labor a little bit.
A little bit. Okay, I'm just going to pour this right into a bowl. Now, you could put it over like a whole grain macaroni and cheese at this point, over macaroni, and put it on your stove. And, you know, your children, I think they would love it. This has got good taste to it since it has all those different spices in it and seasonings.
It smells good.
Yeah. And you might smooth this out a little bit. That's going to be the bottom because when it's in the refrigerator for a while, it will get hard, and then you'll flip it over like I'm going to do with one that's already ready-made. I can't think of anyone that doesn't like cheese, but I can think of a lot of people that cheese doesn't like them.
Exactly.
So now this one I did earlier today, and we put it in a small, like, bread pan. And you just put some type of a dish. I got this decorative dish. Put it over. You can use any kind of mold that you want. And it usually just pops right out. We'll give it a little bit of help here. There it goes. And then that's very sliceable, you know, and
Yes.
you can put on crackers. You can make a grilled cheese if you wanted.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Does it kind of melt?
Yes, it does melt. In fact, you can also put it in the freezer and then grate it on the top of crackers, bread, or anything, spaghetti, anything you would regular cheese.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to take a short break now and come back to show you the finished products.
We hope you've enjoyed today's program with Bev Cook. Now let's take a moment to review our dairy replacement recipes. For better butter, you'll need 1/2 cup pine nuts, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 1/4 cup water, 1 teaspoon Udo's oil, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1/2 teaspoon sea salt, 1/2 cup coconut oil. For your whipped cream, you'll need 1½ cup of raw almonds, 1/2 cup fresh orange juice, 1 date, preferably medjool, few drops of almond extract. For the creamy almond milk, you'll need 2/3 cup raw almonds, 1/3 cup unsweetened coconut, 1 teaspoon sea salt, 1 cup raw oats, 1 tablespoon pure vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of raw honey. If you'd like to contact Bev Cook, please call 3ABN at 800-752-3226. Now let's take a look at our finished recipes with Bev.
Welcome back. Bev, how about telling us about the recipes you made today?
I'll be happy to. Well, we started out with the better butter, and that one you can use on anything you'd regularly use butter on, and it melts very easily. And then the next one we moved into was the whipped cream. And just remember, if you're not going to serve it immediately, to whip it up in your blender right before serving. Then after that, we did the creamy almond milk. You could substitute cashews and have creamy cashew milk. Either one is wonderful. And then a lot of people say, if I only had a good cheese. Well, we found that today in the slicing cheese, and it can also be grated. You can make a cheese sauce with it and put it on crackers, and it will melt on your broccoli or wherever.
Well, thank you, Beverly. I hope that these recipes have been helpful to you today in going non-dairy. And I hope that you will join back with us again, and let's cook together. Rather difficult, aren't they?
For some people
and
it is.
Finding something that tastes good and is a good substitute. So I'm anxious to see what you're going to do today.
Well, we're going to start with the better butter recipe.
All right. To make better butter, you will need 1/2 cup of pine nuts, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/4 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of Udo's oil, if it's available to you, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, and 1/2 cup of coconut oil. All right, shall we get busy with our recipe?
Let's do. This is a great recipe, Barbara. It's called better butter, and it's so
wonderful.
easy.
Welcome. I'm Barbara Nolan, and I want to welcome our guest to you today, Bev Cook.
Hello, Barbara.
Bev, where are you visiting from?
We're here from North Carolina.
North Carolina. Well, I have sisters living there. I wonder
Really?
if you live close by to them. You may know them. Well, what are we going to be cooking today?
Well, actually, not a whole lot of cooking involved, but a lot of preparation, and I've got some very good tried and tested dairy replacement recipes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Half of the battle, I think, is finding something good that's good for you, and that combination can be found.
But I think dairy products are the...
See, it's just a matter of blending everything together. So I'll start with the 1/2 cup of pine nuts, and we're going to put all the ingredients in this little personal blender. You don't need a big blender for this because it's just a small amount. So that was a 1/2 cup of pine nuts. That's really going to cream up easily. And then I'll add the 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil here, and then a 1/4 cup of water right here, so it won't be overly thick. And then it calls for 1 teaspoon of Udo's oil. That is, if available. Udo's oil is simply a flaxseed oil blend. It's really good with your omega-3, 6, and 9. But I didn't have it today, and it's just as good without it. It just ups the nutrition if you have it.
Okay, well that was a new one on me, actually.
Okay. Then we'll use a tablespoon of lemon juice and a half a teaspoon of sea salt. And the coconut oil we're going to add last. I'd like to blend these up first. The coconut oil is a very important ingredient because that's what will solidify this butter when it's all said and done. So we'll just, that was the blade I just put on here. And so we'll put it in here.
Are you interested in getting off of dairy products and just need a little help in knowing how to go about doing that? Well, stay tuned today because we have some recipes that will be very helpful to you in doing that.